Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review for you, as is usual. For this one we're going to return to Scotland's oldest craft brewery, which is of course Broughton Ales, and this is the third review of 4 that I'm doing from these guys for you. They were very cool and they sent me their beer actually, so a big thank you to Brett at Broughton Ales for arranging for that to happen to me. It's cool to see my channel becoming self-sustaining. But for this one we're going to have a taste of the Merlin's Ale, which is a really nice kind of golden ale, or kind of golden bitter. I've seen it described as a few different things, but it's meant to be kind of, some people have described it as an English pale ale, some people have described it as a golden ale, so I'm not really sure exactly what to think. The main thing though is that the beer is good, which I'm sure it will be. So as is usual then with my beer reviews, I'll take you through a very brief history of the brewery. It is quite short for this one, but if you don't want to stick with me for that, just fast forward a few minutes into the video and you will get straight to the tasting. The brewery website is in the video description for you below, so check that out, and there's also a link there to my other Broughton Ales beer reviews, and I hope you enjoy them. So anyway, Broughton Brewery was founded in 1979 by David Younger and James Collins in a former abattoir in the small village of Biggar in the Scottish border region. And as I said to you, Broughton Ales is regarded as the first Scottish microbrewery, and they marketed themselves to customers looking for a craft beer experience as an alternative to the mass-produced lagers and beers, and that was in their very early days. A lot of people didn't know exactly what craft beer was at that time, of course, but these guys aren't that much younger than the likes of Sierra Nevada and Anchor Brewery in America, who really started the ball rolling over there. But Collins and Younger released their first beer, the Green Mantle Ale, to great success, and the brewery actually became very well known throughout Scotland at that point. And the Green Mantle Ale is actually a bit of a kind of cult classic amongst the older generation of ale people in Scotland. So the beer was actually so popular that the locals soon began to refer to the brewery as the Green Mantle Brewery, and it is considered, as I say, a cult classic by the older generation of beer lovers in Scotland. Now, the Green Mantle Ale helped greatly increase the demand for small brewed beer in Scotland, and the brewery then decided to introduce 3 other ales, and this was the Old Jock, Merlin's Ale, this guy here, and the Scottish Oatmeal Stout. And each of these beers were named after a well-known character from the Scottish Borders region where the brewery is located. So in 1995 the brewery underwent a change in ownership, and it was taken over by Gillis Litchfield, who introduced the Beers with Character moniker for a series of 10 bottled ales, and his main objective with the brewery as well was to increase the exports, which began in 1996, and the brewery has been growing quite steadily in fact ever since. And today the brewery actually exports to Italy, France, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Canada, the USA and Japan. And so I know there's quite a few of you actually watch my beers from these countries, so keep an eye out for them. I recommend that if you want some really good Scottish beer, you try these guys out. But today they're producing 8 different bottled beers, 10 permanent casks, and over 15 different seasonal beers that you only get. These are the ones that you will only get in Scotland on cask, as far as I'm aware. So just to list some of those other beers for you, obviously you have this guy here, Merlin's Ale, which is a kind of golden ale, bitter ale kind of thing. You have Black Douglas, which is a strong bitter, Border Gold, which is a golden ale, Oatmeal Stout, Exciseman's 80, which is a kind of strong bitter beer. It's a kind of traditional Scottish style, that one. You have the Gilly, which is a bitter, Green Mantle, which is a kind of nice, that was a really nice, quite bitter beer as well. And there is the Organic Lager, and they also have the Old Jock's Ale, which is a Scotch ale, and that's the kind of benchmark of the style in my opinion. Many American breweries do a Scotch ale, but it's nothing like the kind of original ones that they do, despite the fact that they are very, very good beers. But in my opinion, Broughton Ales, the oldest microbrewery in Scotland, that is the one who will do your benchmark Scotch ale. So anyway, let's get on to the tasting of this guy itself. I'll just tell you a little bit about the character who's on this one, who obviously is Merlin the Wizard. And it says, the description that's on the website for this one, it says, this beer takes its name from the legendary Merlin. Merlin is believed to have spent many years of his life in the Caledonian forest, which at one time covered much of the south of Scotland. A thorn in the bush drumzeller close to Broughton makes his burial place, and many strong legends and historical references give credence to his presence in the area around this brewery, which is very, very cool in fact. The bit it says about the beer is, this deep golden pale ale has a clean tasting, refreshing malt flavour overlaid with a strong fruit hop character. With triple the hops of a normal bitter, Merlin's ale will surely give you the delicious mystical hoppy bite you're after. So it does say in the description it's a little bit of a, it says it's a pale ale, but it also says it's a bitter, but you can debate styles all you like. The most important thing is that the beer tastes good. So it's a 4.2% kind of golden beer, pale ale, bitter beer, as we say, not quite sure, but it uses Challenger and Bramlin cross hops apparently. So without further ado, we'll get on to the tasting part of this beer. I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little quick look at the bottle. you can see there, that's the artwork on this one. It is the kind of typical artwork actually. This sort of style of label is the typical one you'll see from Broughton Ales. I think they're very, very cool actually, very kind of classic in that sense. It's just a plain bottle cap on this one. Some of them do have different colours. It tells you a little bit about the character on the side of the beer as well there, which is really cool. It's a bit different actually. It says, according to the Arthurian legend, the mad wizard Merlin, also known in Welsh as Midrin, was driven to the Caledonian forest in 573 AD. A stone in Drumelsier, close to the right bank of the River Tweed, marks his burial site, which lies close to the Broughton Brewery. Locals say that on the eve of Merlin's death, his spirit haunts the stone and the surrounding area. So that's a little bit different to the description that was on the website there as well, but it looks a really nice beer. And you can see on the back there, there's the nice kind of Broughton crest there. Very, very cool guy on his horse with the flag. So without further ado, we'll get this guy out and get on with the tasting. As I said, 4.2% ale, Bramling's cross hops in this one, and Challenger. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening on this one. And I've just realised, I've started this review now, but I forgot to use the glass that they also sent me with this one, so I'll need to remember that for my next one that I do from these guys, because they were very, very kind in sending me that glass. And again, thank you to Brett at the Broughton Ales Brewery for doing that. So I'll bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the colour of this one. As you can see, very, very kind of rich golden colour, orangey golden colour actually, a nice kind of finger of a frothy white head on it there. If I put my fingers behind it, you can see right through it. Very, very attractive looking beer. A good bit of carbonation kind of heading up towards the underside of the head there. It looks very, very nice actually, so we'll give it a shuggle and see how we get on here. So it's got a very, it actually reminds me a lot of it's got the kind of typical malt base that you expect from this brewery. Once you've tried a few of these beers, you get used to the kind of trademark elements that they put in their beers, which is quite cool. Obviously, you like a little thing like that when it comes to a brewery who you really enjoy drinking. But yeah, in terms of the aroma, you've got a nice kind of grainy and bready, doughy malt base on this one. And there is some caramel mixing into that. But it's quite biscuity actually. Biscuity is probably a better word to describe this one. Definitely a kind of nice grainy character mixed with a sort of biscuity malt base on it. There is a little bit of a sweeter caramel in there too. But you've definitely got a kind of citricy hop character coming out of this one as well, and some kind of nice fresh and grassy notes coming out as well. You can just pick that up when you sort of breathe it in a little bit more. But the main component that's actually coming out of the aroma is definitely the kind of doughy and grainy malt base in this one. It's quite interesting actually. You will, as I say, you will start to notice that with these Broughton Ales if you try a few different ones. They all seem to have a kind of quite similar, the lighter beers at least tend to have quite that similar characteristic that comes out of the aroma from the malt base. So very, very good. And these beers, you'll notice the same in the taste as well. They do have certain elements of trademark to the taste, which is very, very cool. So without further ado, let's get on and taste Merlin's ale. So this should be a very, very nice beer. Yeah. What's really interesting about this, you get that malt base that comes out so much in the aroma, but then it has this hop character that really builds up and kind of really gives you a good bit of bite into the aftertaste, which is very, very interesting actually. So yeah, you've got this nice kind of grainy and doughy malt character in this one, and it kind of just, the hops just sit on top of it, if that makes sense. It's present all the way through the beer, and then you've got this just really kind of punchy, aromatic, citrusy character pushing on top of it. The citrus isn't too prominent actually, it's more of a grassy, aromatic character, maybe a bit floral as well actually, that you're getting out of this beer. Very interesting this one, just exact. They say on their website in the description they give of this one that it's a nice malt base with a lot of hoppy character sitting on top of that, and it really is just like that. It's beautiful, this one. I'm yet to try a beer from these guys that I don't like, and I'm sure I've tried this guy on tap before. And what's good about these beers is that when you take them out of the bottle, they actually do feel a little bit like the cask ales. They do have the flavour really doesn't change all that much, which can be something that happens with the way that the different conditioning methods of beer. But these beers that come out of the bottles from Broughton, they always do seem to come out in a very similar manner, which is obviously very, very good. Something that you really want, actually. But yeah, the beer opens up. It does open up with a little bit of the hop character coming out as well, so you've got that nice kind of lemony citric character that sticks towards the front of the tongue, and you've got the grassy elements and aromatic elements of the flavour that just push round the tongue and give it that kind of nice, quite crisp mouthfeel, rather. That was the word I was looking for. But as you progress through this beer, you get that malt base coming out. It kind of builds itself up a little bit. You get the nice kind of grainy and sort of cereal character coming out of it, and some floral aromatic freshness. And the floral aromatic freshness just comes in and then gradually takes over the palate. It's very, very interesting. The caramel in this one is quite subdued, actually. It's mainly a kind of cereal and bready dough base that's in this one, but there is just a little hint of it there, although I would, as I say, it is quite subdued. And that is what I'm talking about with the kind of trademark elements, if you like. One of the other beers that I've tried from these guys, quite a few of the lighter beers have a similar character within the malt base, so they must use similar things in a lot of these beers to make the malt base and change the hops and stuff like that around. But that is definitely the trademark, this kind of cereally character in their lighter ales. It's very, very good, and I really do like it, actually. I love beers that can have such a good malt base in them, and I do like them to have that little element of cereal spice about it. So it is, when we were talking about the style earlier with this one, I can see the point where the beer becomes a pale ale, or yeah, I would say I can see the point where the beer becomes a pale ale, but I can also see where it becomes a bitter as well, and that's the bitter part comes in the malt base. This beer is almost a bitter beer in the malt, but then a pale ale in the hops. So it's a kind of interesting bitter pale ale hybrid, if you like. But yeah, you do get just a little bit of that kind of caramel sweetness building right in the middle of the tongue as you kind of progress through the tasting of this beer. It's a really interesting one, this. Pretty much, it is really interesting just because it is almost this hybrid of a style, and you have the little different elements of it. It's very, very good, and I do like this beer. So, in terms of the mouthfeel, it's quite light to mid-bodied. It does have a certain element of oily character to it, which is the same as what you would expect if this beer was to be in a cask ale. Like I was saying, their bottles seem to come out very similar to the cask ales, which is the mark of very good conditioning, in my opinion. This beer has a kind of moderate carbonation. It has what you would expect, but it complements the kind of floral aromatic character of the beer, and it also helps the spicy flavours just to linger in the mouth, really, which is very, very nice. I do like that. But yeah, I would stick to that. It does definitely have a good element of grassy character in the finish, and that's where the aromatic and floral flavours come out a little bit more. But it's very clean and quite a sessionable one, this, if you want something that's a bit more bitter than normal. But overall, I mean, it's another very, very good beer from Broughton Ales. I couldn't say whether this one is my favourite or not yet, because I've not tried all of them. The Old Jock Ale to me was a very, very beautiful beer, but I'll need to go through the rest of the reviews and see if I can find another one that kind of that maybe knocks it off its pedestal a little bit. That's just personal opinion, though. I mean, people like different styles of beers, but the Old Jock for me was fantastic, and this is another very, very strong and very, very good beer from Broughton Ales, and I don't think you would try anything from them and be disappointed in the slightest. A very, very good brewery, in my opinion. But I hope you've enjoyed this beer review nonetheless. Very cool to be reviewing another beer from Scotland's oldest craft brewery, so check them out, like I say, in the video description below. So I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this one if you do happen to have tried it. And as always, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Check out Broughton Ales, and I'll be back soon with another beer review, and there will be more Broughton beers to be reviewed in the next little while. Cheers!